the Hollywood Unapologetic Podcast with Orlando Delbert, Filmmaking Essentials.
This is really for you, the new Hollywood generation of filmmakers, content creators, anyone trying to make their mark. You've got the passion, you want to make something great, but we know making the film, that's just the start, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's everything that comes after that often trips people up. Selling it, distribution, navigating the tricky parts.
Selling it without selling your soul, figuring out distribution way earlier than you think, spotting the predatory folks.
And now AI. That's the huge new factor in the mix.
Exactly. So we've looked at a lot of experiences, a lot of insights, trying to piece together a kind of practical roadmap for how things look now.
It's a complex landscape, but hopefully we can break it down a bit.
Okay, so let's get right into it. Breaking into the Hollywood machine, the big dream. Our sources seem pretty clear, though. Just having a brilliant script. That's probably not the golden ticket.
No, definitely not on its own. Experience seems to be, fundamental. The advice we saw kept coming back to getting some kind of set experience, any level.
Before you try to direct your own feature.
Yeah, exactly. Learn the ropes, see how it actually works. Even basic stuff like being a PA gives you invaluable insight.
And it's not just being on a set, right? It's about building, what's the term? Clout and connections.
That's it. Industry respect, basically. Knowing people, having them know you and your work. That takes time.
Yeah.
Serious effort.
And that's even harder right now, isn't it? We keep hearing about this industry slowdown.
Oh, definitely. It's impacting everyone, makes it even more competitive. So having that network and, crucially, proof of your skills is even more important.
So what can you actually do? Sounds like you just have to start making stuff yourself.
Pretty much. Self-starting is the name of the game. Make shorts, write spec scripts, scripts you write on your own initiative. Build that portfolio. Show, don't just tell.
Okay, and let's clarify something. There's working in the industry, like on a crew.
Right.
And then there's making your own film independently, finding your own money.
Exactly. Two different paths, though they can overlap.
Yeah.
A lot of people start small, maybe self-fund a short, to build towards that independent feature.
Because that idea of a total newcomer just pitching a script and landing a directing job, it's mostly a myth.
It seems like it. The more likely outcome, if your script gets noticed, is maybe getting a writing fee. But directing, that usually goes to people with a track record.
That's a big reality check.
It is. And something else that came up. Breaking in is hard, sure.
Yeah.
But sustaining a career, thriving, that's even tougher. Mentally, financially, it takes a toll.
Okay, so let's say you've done the groundwork, got experience, made some shorts, you're ready for that indie feature. Funding, how? Without a studio, where do investors come from? Right,
the big question. And the advice here was maybe a bit unexpected. It wasn't just network in LA. It was more like, go where the money is.
Locally.
Identify the thriving industries in your own area. Could be tech, could be real estate, oil and gas, tourism, maybe even newer things like legal cannabis, professionals, lawyers, doctors.
Interesting. So find out who has money in your community. But then what? You don't just walk into a tech CEO's office with a script, right?
Probably not. The next step was understanding where these people, hang out after hours, where they congregate.
So networking more organically, not just cold pitching?
Exactly. Building actual relationships. Because film investment, it's risky, really risky. So finding common ground, building trust, that's key. People invest in people they like and trust.
Makes sense. If you share a passion for vintage cars or supporting a local charity, that's a connection point.
Precisely. And these communities, especially wealthier ones, they're often interconnected. Getting good with one investor, they might introduce you to others.
But the flip side is true too, I guess. Burn a bridge.
And word gets around fast.
Yeah.
Reputation is everything in those circles. So yeah, building trust, maintaining it, absolutely crucial for long-term funding.
Okay, let's pivot. Selling your film. There's this growing idea, especially for your generation, that you can stay independent through the whole process.
And it's becoming more realistic. Yeah, at every stage, there's this distinction being made between traditional indie film.
Which often still has big corporate ties, right? Traditional release windows, maybe not great returns for the actual filmmaker.
Exactly. Versus what some are calling a truly free film culture, made without relying on that massive corporate backing, aiming for a model that benefits the audience and the artist more directly.
And a big part of that truly free idea seems to be transparency, like sharing the wins and the losses.
Yeah, that feels different. The old model was often quite secretive. Sharing failures, what didn't work, that helps everyone learn, makes the whole indie community stronger, more resilient.
And technology helps here, obviously. Digital distribution means you don't always need those traditional gatekeepers anymore.
Right. The middlemen might still have a role sometimes, but they're not the only path. Filmmakers have direct tools now.
Okay, but when you do work with distributors, understanding the money side is vital. Even if contracts limit full transparency, what are some baseline things to know about fees?
Good question. For physical media, like DVDs, you might see distributors take maybe 25–30% of revenue, then recoup costs, or maybe a 50–50 split after costs.
And digital.
Ideally, you'd want to see digital fees around, say, 15% if it's consistently creeping over 25%. That's probably a red flag, warrants a closer look at the deal terms.
Yeah.
You need to understand all the deductions.
Which really brings us to distribution strategy. Thinking about it early, really early, while you're still developing the film.
Absolutely critical. It can't be an afterthought. And a really smart approach we saw mentioned a lot is hybrid distribution.
Hybrid, so mixing things up.
Exactly. You blend the control and potentially higher revenue share of self-distribution with using traditional distributors for specific things, maybe theatrical, maybe international sales.
So you get the best of both. Keep more direct control, grow your own audience.
But leverage partners for reach you can't get on your own. Unlike old school deals where you might sign away rights for 20 years.
20 years. Wow.
Yeah. Hybrid lets you control the structure, pick your partners more carefully, manage how rights are split.
But that control comes with responsibility, right? If you're self-distributing digitally, you have to figure out how to get noticed. It's crowded out there.
That's the challenge. It's definitely a double-edged sword. More freedom, but also more work to stand out. And you need to track your own performance much more closely than if you just took an upfront payment.
Which means building your own platform is essential. Website, social media, that email list.
Crucial. Your direct connection to your audience. And don't forget crowdfunding. It's not just money. It's building that initial core audience, those early believers.
We saw some great case studies of hybrid models working, like The Babadook.
Yeah, great example. Limited theatrical, built buzz at festivals, then a really targeted streaming release, engaging directly with horror fans online.
Smart. Or Tangerine shot on iPhones, but got traditional theatrical and digital. Showed it was possible.
Right. And Base Ackwards was really DIY after Sundance. Went to digital quickly, did quirky theatrical bookings, kept that online presence strong, felt very disruptive.
Ride the Divide used partnerships, right, with organizations like Livestrong.
Exactly. Created events, sold merch, timed the cable and digital releases really strategically after their tour.
And Adventures of Power. The filmmaker was super involved in the marketing, social media, contests, even before a traditional deal came later.
Shows you need to stay involved. American. The Bill Hicks story used theatrical for press. Then VOD did well. Festival recognition helped there too.
Then you have films focusing on niche audiences like For the Bible Tells Me So or Undertow, using community groups, specific festivals.
Leveraging those connections. Casper Andreas' films used festivals almost like theatrical runs, then sold DVDs directly.
Yeah.
And Were the World Mine built a strong fan base through festivals and awards before hitting theatrical and digital.
So the takeaway seems to be, tailor your strategy, use multiple channels, engage specific communities, time things carefully.
Precisely. There's no single magic bullet. It's about finding the right mix for your film and your audience.
Okay, now for a tougher topic. Unfortunately, not everyone in this business plays fair. There are bad actors out there looking to prey on filmmakers.
Yeah, and we came across a really harrowing story. Filmmaker Michael Daniel and his experience with a company called Phoenix Worldwide Entertainment.
What happened there?
They licensed his film, promised a $100,000 minimum guarantee. Michael delivered everything, even sold his truck to cover the costs of the deliverables they asked for.
He sold his truck. Wow.
Yeah. And then, nothing. Over a year went by, no payment.
That's awful, but it gets worse, doesn't it?
It does. Michael was fighting stage 4 cancer at the time. He genuinely believed the distributor was just waiting, delaying payment, hoping he would pass away so they wouldn't have to pay.
That's beyond words. Just reprehensible.
Utterly. And when people looked into this company, Phoenix Worldwide, they found a whole history of alleged fraud, lawsuits, apparently even using names like Mel Gibson without permission.
So just predators, basically.
Seems like it. And they knew how hard it is for an indie filmmaker to fight legally, especially across borders. They were apparently quite dismissive about it.
And the scary thing is, this isn't unique, right? Other filmmakers face similar stuff.
Sadly, no. It's a real risk. And often, the best weapon filmmakers have is just shining a light on these practices. talking about it.
It's important to mention, though, that another company, Cleopatra Entertainment, later right to rights and treated Michael fairly. The issue was specifically with Phoenix.
Right. That's crucial. The advice that came out of this: do your homework. Be incredibly careful who you partner with if a deal looks too good to be true.
It probably is. And be honest in your own work. Don't just talk the talk.
Exactly. Beware the producer who never actually produces anything. Do the work.
Okay, finally, let's talk about AI. Artificial intelligence. It's everywhere now, and it's definitely influencing film, production, distribution, the whole pipeline.
Absolutely. It's moving incredibly fast. AI is being used to increase efficiency in lots of areas. Script writing assistance, scheduling, enhancing VFX.
We're seeing things like OpenAI's Sora text-to-video. That's mind-blowing. And AI analyzing scripts for box office potential. Companies like Synalytic, Scriptbook.
Yeah, claiming pretty high accuracy rates, apparently informing greenlight decisions, casting, distribution strategies. These are large language models like ChatGPT-2, trained on massive data sets.
And that prediction, AI writing scripts better than humans within 5 years, that's gotta be worrying for screenwriters.
Oh, huge concerns. Livelihoods, sure, but also questions about the training data. Whose work is it based on? Copyright, ethics, bias in the AI.
So many ethical questions swirling around AI in general, and specifically in filmmaking. Truth versus loyalty, short-term versus long-term.
Right, the classic dilemmas.
Yeah.
And filmmaking already has ethical considerations: how you frame an interview, how you edit, juxtaposition of shots. AI adds another layer entirely. Is the storytelling truthful?
And AI in post-production too, right? De-aging, face replacement, like in Furious 7 after Paul Walker's death.
Exactly. And there have even been films like Safe Zone, reportedly written and directed by AI.
Wow, so it can be a collaborator maybe? Helping with script development?
Potentially. But there are challenges. Trusting the AI, maintaining your own voice, understanding its limitations, the potential for bias based on its training.
In transparency. Do we know what source material trained the AI? Are writers' works being used without credit?
Big questions.
Yeah.
And AI is still subjective, right? We risk thinking it's more creative than it actually is. Some writers, especially those who value the emotional core, might be hesitant to hand over control.
Makes sense. Okay, so wrapping this up. For the new Hollywood generation, getting a film made and seen successfully is, well, it's a lot.
It really is. Talent is crucial, obviously. But it's clearly not enough on its own anymore. You need business sense. You need to understand distribution. You need to be aware of the pitfalls.
Both human pitfalls and now technological ones with AI. Hopefully this gives you a good starting point, a framework for your own research and planning.
Yeah, think of it as a foundation to build on.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. As these tools get easier to use and AI gets more powerful, how is the whole idea of selling your film going to change? What new challenges, new ethical questions are going to pop up for independent creators in the next few years? Lots to think about. Thanks for joining us.
You can find more insights on navigating the entertainment industry and achieving success in Orlando Delbert's work, including his book, Pollyanna's Tear-Soaked Battlefields of Hollywood, a survival guide against the cynicism and the hypocritical, and of course, the Hollywood Unapologetic platform. And always remember, you are the key to your own success. You are the new Hollywood generation.
Be informed, be prepared, and most importantly, be great.
That's it. Be great. Good luck out there.
See you next time.